All right, so this is the Soulful Leaders Academy, and I welcome everyone that is watching this on YouTube and who is live here. And we just had a question of how it is to look in the mirror. And I want to teach you the mirror exercise that I learned from one of my mentors, Dr. Joseph McClendon, who's a PhD and has a neuroencoding institute. I'm certified with him. And he does it to improve self-esteem and help people that look in the mirror and don't even want to look in the mirror because they see nothing but the ugly part. Oh my God, is my hair correct? Do I have a pimple on my chin? Is there a black hair that I have to rip out? Is the lipstick correct? How do I look? Instead of seeing the beautiful person that each of us are. So here's the exercise. It's very scientific, so please do it with me. You take your right arm, you raise it to about shoulder height, and you angle your lower arm to about 90 degrees and put the hand right in to the ceiling. So yes, and then you pull the whole arm and angle the forearm on a 45 in front of you, and then so it's in front of your face in a 45 to the left, and then you go to the back of your shoulder and give you a big pat. That always gives me a laugh. Now, that goes on. That's just the first part. Emily, you raised your hand. What do you want to say?
Oh, no, I'm just doing the exercise.
Yeah, that's excellent. Now, here's what you need to do. And Louise, you do it from the inside, but everybody else that's not visually impaired can do it on the outside. When you go by a mirror, we automatically look in the mirror when we go in the bathroom, or we look, is my hair okay? Do I have a big black spot on my face that I need to rub off? So next time you look at yourself in the mirror, here's what to do. You look at yourself and you look yourself in the eyes as if you were the most beloved person in the whole universe that you really are. And you put a big smile on your face because you love yourself. And then you say to yourself the 4 most important words in your life. Who knows what they could be? What are the 4 most important words in everyone's life?
Love is actually one.
Love is one. What else? There's 3 more.
Laugh.
No, it's a sentence that we can say to ourselves every time we look in the mirror.
Smile.
Has to love it. Now, when you look at the most beloved person in your life, what would you say to him or her?
I love you.
I love you. There's 3 of the 4 words. What is the 4th? It's the word that we all listen to the most, that we love or learned to love over the many years of our lives. What could that be?
You.
No, you is not as powerful as the one word that everybody immediately listens to and reacts to.
Hello.
You have to guess? What is one word when I say you immediately listen up?
Right.
How about your first name? Louise, Emily, Linda, yes, I'm here. Christine, yes, I'm here. So the 4 words, the 4 most important words to say to yourself every time you go by a mirror. So to repeat, you go to the mirror and I pretend the camera is the mirror, right? You look at yourself and you think, oh my God, I love this person, the most loved, beloved person that I know, that I'll ever know. And she'll never desert me. Oh my God, what a good person. And I love her so much. And it puts a big smile on your face. And then you say to yourself, hey, Christine, I love you. Then you can pat yourself on the shoulder and go to the next mirror and repeat.
Louise, I love you.
Absolutely. And sometimes we combine that with a power move, and everyone should have a power move that when they do that move, that's an anchor. It increases confidence, self-esteem, and makes them feel powerful and empowered. That's also by Joseph McClendon. So try and find out what your powerful move is. When you think of the most powerful you can ever be, and then think of a move that symbolizes that. And then every time you start a speech, you talk about to a prospect, you are in a scary situation, you go to the mirror, you look at yourself, you say, Christine, I love you. I'm the most powerful person in the world. And then you go with that attitude in the conversation, whether it's a sales conversation, a difficult conversation with your employer, whatever it is, you have a much higher chance of being successful.
Thank you.
And it
Sounds
boosts your
good.
mood. It boosts your mood. You feel better. Just that,
Feel better already.
yeah, just doing it together and laughing at each other, because we don't usually do that, right?
Right.
And there's people that really need to do it often.
That's right.
So then what I was hoping to be able to do today is tape the next part of my Soulful Selling course. And today I wanted to talk about an overview about how to build rapport and trust. Is that something you guys are interested in, you gals?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it. I'll share my screen. The recording is on. Let me see if I can properly do that. Pretty much. I'm not perfect, but that's fine. It's about progress, not perfection. And as another my mentors always said, and many people said that, better done than perfect. Because if you try to do something perfect, you never get done. So welcome to today's episode of The Art of Soulful Selling. And today we are talking about how to attract and enroll paying clients or customers by helping them to understand the benefits that your offerings or services could bring to your life. And this really is a classic definition of selling. But really, sales is much, much more when you look at it. And I said it before, we are all constantly selling something, whether we are aware of it or not. We are all constantly trying to build a connection with others and trying to influence others in some way, right? And that starts in childhood when we try to get a cookie from mom. And even our dog is a good salesperson. Just watch him and wag his tail and look at you if he wants a treat. He's a much better salesperson than many of us, right? So I've started to say, and I'm not the only one, that sales is really the most important skill in life. And I think we should help our children to develop and build this skill as early as possible. A good tool are books, and you can find my favorite book list on this and related topics in module 2 of the course that is accessible to you, and chapter 3 of the Soulful Selling course. And so here is the high-level overview of the module we are currently working on. And today we are starting to talk about how exactly to build trust and rapport with a prospective buyer of our products or services. And this is a crucial part, since nobody buys anything if he or she doesn't trust that the product or service will do or be for them what they need or want, right? And this has 3 parts. We need to communicate authentically and effectively. We need to listen actively and empathetically. And we need to have some credibility and authority. And we will talk about all of these in more detail in upcoming sessions. But now I want to give you the overview. So let's start with part 1, communication, because so often so many things go wrong. Now let me just show the video panel so I see your beautiful faces. And anyone here on the call, can you give me an example of a communication gone totally wrong in 30 seconds or a minute max? If nobody volunteered, here's an example from my work. I scheduled not long ago a call with a person who said that they were interested in my services. That's always nice. But after a few introductory niceties, it was a man, started talking about the benefits of his products and asking me questions that a salesperson would ask a prospect. So in fact, he tried to turn tables. And this is a clear violation of trust because we booked the appointment to talk about my services and not for him to pitch his, and he didn't ask for permission to do so. And of course, there was no sales, and I'm not sure how he felt about this conversation, but I left the conversation with a feeling of disappointment and frustration, maybe even a bit anger about the time wasted. Obviously, I would never buy his product, at least not from him, right? I'm sure we all had similar experiences. And in this module, we'll break down all the issues that need to be established so that this doesn't happen too often, at least to us. So, what is trust? Let's get started with trust. Let's reflect on a few questions and feel free to answer. Either you can unmute yourself and just go on or type it in the chat box because I really want to know your thoughts on this. What do you think? What factors are needed to establish trust for a buyer? Any ideas?
They have to believe that you're honest and sincere.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You have to be authentic. What you're thinking and what you're saying and what your behavior is has to be aligned. That makes you authentic, and that's when people are going to listen because they're going to start trusting you when you're authentic.
Mm-hmm. Any other ideas? Now let me ask you. Yeah, go on, Emily.
I sometimes get too excited about what I want to share, and I have to calm myself down.
And when the salesperson is excited about the product, it's a good thing.
Mhm.
But we just have to learn how to communicate it in a way that doesn't overwhelm the prospect.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of that too, and most of us are. So we established they certainly need to trust you, the salesperson, that you are honest and so on. But they also need to trust the product, right?
Right.
So the question is, what makes a person or product really trustworthy? And you had some very good ideas, and I looked in the dictionary because that's just me. What's the definition of trust? The definition of trust is a firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. And now I just have the idea, does a buyer also need to trust themselves and their own good judgment? I think they do. So let me show you a classic example of confirmation bias. Because we, as our prospects, always look for evidence that affirms what we already believe to be true. And we all know the saying of sleazy salespeople. Oh, car salesmen, right? They lie to you. They are dishonest. They overprice everything. They don't tell you half of the truth. The classic standard thing. They just want your money. So we are not that kind of salespeople, but our prospect doesn't know that when we meet them for the first time. That's the confirmation bias. So who here has bought something that they later regretted?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. So let me ask you, how did you feel after you bought that?
Embarrassed, angry, stupid for believing that the product was what I was led to believe.
Right, it didn't feel good. Absolutely not. And we all did it. I did it too. And it's awful. And sometimes we can't return the product, and then we lose not only money, but we have maybe side effects. And every negative experience affects trust, not just in that specific product, but also in our own ability to make a good decision. Now, here's a little fun example from my time when I did marketing door to door. A young man told me that he was keeping salespeople like me away from his elderly mother. And I asked why, and he said, because she can't say no. Well, it was honest, right? So people have generally a negative preconception of salespeople and generally assume that we lie and only want their money. And it's even worse when it comes to direct sales, like door to door on the street, or even in farmers markets or at events. And the higher the price, the greater the skepticism. And honestly, with good reason, because there are a lot of fraudsters out there. And it indirectly affects all the good, honest salespeople like us, right?
Mm.
So now let's find out what makes a person or product trustworthy and how can we build trust. I think it's really interesting. And of course, I asked my friend Chatty. I call ChatGPT and similar AIs, I call them Chatty. So it's my friend Chatty. And I got permission from ChatGPT to call her Chatty and assign her the gender female. She had no objections to that. Just having fun. So, how can we build trust? Number one, we need to establish clear boundaries. So that means that I'm clear about my boundaries and hold them. And I respect yours. And that means I don't go too close to you. I respect your personal space. I respect your choice of topics. I respect your opinions. I don't talk you down, but I also expect the same from you. And the next thing is reliability, integrity, and authenticity. That's what you mentioned before, Louise, and you're completely right. To be and do as you say, and not just once, but over and over again, and to live your values and to choose to do what's right, which sometimes requires courage if it's not the usual thing. Then to respect privacy and apologize if you make mistakes. So privacy means not just for what another tells you in confidence, but also what you say about others secretly to others. Say, if I tell others, you know, that Emily there in New Glasgow, she is such an old, terrible woman. She doesn't get her technology straight. She must be stupid. If I say that about her to others, and these others may tell it back to her, it would lose Emily to have trust in me because she said, what did you say? No, that I wouldn't say
That's
that.
true.
Yeah, of course. But why would I say that? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. If I do anything about it, I would help you with that issue, but I wouldn't talk about negatively to others about it. And of course, it's especially hurtful if it's weaknesses or perceived weaknesses, right? So apologize for mistakes. We all make mistakes. We live. My dear husband has a good analog for that. He says, that's why we have pencils with erasers at the end, because we all make mistakes. Well, for us, most of the time it means to be able to apologize and say, I'm sorry the right way, not just to, oh, I'm sorry, but no, that's not an apology if you end up with a but negates everything you said before and says, really, I mean the opposite. Like when your boss tells you, oh, you're such a good worker, but, well, what do you hear? Everything after the but, you forgot the good work. Same with the apology. It has to be authentic. And of course, we need to be responsible and own our own actions. If possible, don't judge. So that means, can they ask you for help without feeling that you judge them, especially look down on them? And if so, then you should also be able to ask them for help and maybe even say it. And judgment can sometimes be making sense when you position yourself against sometimes. When you, for example, say, our natural health products are so much gentler than what the pharmaceutical industry is selling you, which judges the others as an enemy, which sometimes helps in sale if it's done good, not with a malicious intention. And it's true. So then be generous. Now, what does it mean? It means be generous with finances and time-wise, but reasonably. Give samples, give discounts, but also forgive mistakes on the part of the prospect. Don't blame them for forgiving things, and take responsibility yourself for reminders and follow up yourself. That's part of being generous, when you do some of the work at least. Because it takes time, it takes effort, it takes thought. This is all part of generosity. It's not just giving other people money, even if you have lots to give, which most of us don't. Now let's go on, because it gets better. What is rapport? Because besides needing all the layers of trust being aligned, we also need rapport. But what really is this? Anybody have an idea what rapport is as opposed to aligned with trust? What does it mean?
Being able to have a two-way conversation.
Okay.
It's a relationship.
Yeah.
So relationship.
Excellent. Right. It is about connection, establishing a connection. And yeah, two-way communication is important. And we can do that online, in person, and on the phone. And it is much more connection. It's harder to do that over video. Of course, a remote time-lapse video or course or something, or over text messages, but it still can build rapport. So what other, Maxine, no, I'm not letting her in now. So does a buyer need to like the salesperson to establish rapport? What do you think? Yes or no? Do you think a buyer needs to like the salesperson? Now, here's what Brian Tracy says. Brian Tracy is, of course, a famous sales teacher, and he says, yes, it helps when the buyer likes you. If you're a likable person, you will make more sales as if you're acting a jerk. You have to have a real good product for a real good price if you buy it from a jerk. Now, let's look at this closer. Again, what is a dictionary definition of rapport? It's a close and harmonious relationship in which the people or groups concerned understand each other's feelings or ideas and communicate well. So in short, building a closer connection between two people, as you mentioned before. See, I'm deepening our own report here. What I'm selling you today here on the call. Have you ever thought about it? Oh, I did. So
I think rapport too is the connection, but it's also providing support. And I had experienced that with you in the past. So when I made the connection again with you, I knew whatever it was, and if I was interested, that I would get their support.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say that. And you're right. It's part of establishing trust, being generous, and having rapport, that you m- make all the efforts possible to help the other person achieve their goals. Because it's not about you. Selling is never about the seller. Selling is always about the buyer, or you will not sell anything. Now, Tony Robbins says about rapport, rapport is the ability to enter someone else's world, to make him, well, he should have said him or her, feel that you understand him or her, that you have a strong bond, and that you have a strong common bond. Anybody doesn't know Tony Robbins? I think we do. He is a self-help author, an entrepreneur, personal growth guru, a motivational speaker. Yeah, he's famous. Absolutely. Good for him. How can we build rapport? So here's how to do this. First things first, right? So first, make a good first impression. That means decent clothes, appropriate to the situation. Put a smile on your face. Use the correct choice of words. Use proper body language. Smell good, but not over the top. There's nothing worse for a buyer than to have to endure your body smell if you haven't showered for a week. That will turn the best buyer off, especially when you want to sell them a cosmetic or health product. If you have any mannerisms that turn people off, like, let me demonstrate some. Then usually buyers don't appreciate that. Kind of bad habits. It makes it much harder to sell anything. And if you can choose a place that is proper, if you're on Zoom, don't have a background where they can see your closet with all the clothes in it. That's why I have a green screen behind me. Now, the second very important part is to listen empathetically. Just let me go in the waiting room and get our message. Oh, so she knows. Okay, it's too late. I'm not letting Maxine. Sorry, dear. Now, listen empathetically is the second point. What does it mean? It means to ask good questions and let the other person speak more than what you speak. And from the books, I learned that the prospect should do about 70% of the talking. So Zoom actually tells you when you're in a Zoom call how much of the talking you did. It's quite interesting. And I learned one thing about myself. I tend to talk too much. So we'll have a wonderful module or several about good questions that don't pierce the prospect, but lead him towards a sale, effortless, more or less. The next point is to seek common ground. And you said that before, to establish common likes and dislikes, maybe in other products, in private life. For example, oh, I like your football team, or we go to the same church. Oh, do you like the restaurant? Have you ever gone to the Keg and had a steak? Yeah, I like that too. Or, oh, you're vegetarian. Yeah, I love vegetables. I have a vegetable garden. And then I wouldn't emphasize that I like meat if they are vegetarian, but I do. On the other hand, be honest and genuine. Don't lie. But there's a fine line between not saying things that could offend a prospect and omitting important things, which is as good as lying. So, for example, if I tell them about seed nutrition and somebody said, I'm very fussy eater, I hate everything that's liquid, and I don't tell them that Soul is a liquid product, that would be a lie. That would be dishonest, in my opinion. So that's important facts that the prospect needs to know. And trust and rapport really go together. And it's always the first thing that a salesperson and really anybody in any relationship needs to establish. So that's the content for this week. And next week, I was thinking of giving practical examples and letting us all practice to build trust and rapport and listen to what other famous people like Simon Sinek say about trust and rapport, offer some tips and tricks, and maybe even make a little checklist to check before a sales conversation. Are you ready? And of course, the whole module 2 is much bigger because we'll talk about in the communicate effectively and authentically with your prospect and customers part, how to start a conversation with any stranger that will make them feel good. And I call it seed, a smile. And how to go deeper and ask the right questions in the right sequence without annoying the prospect. Then we'll talk in the next chapter about the power of listening, how to understand and empathize with your buyer's needs and challenges, active listening skills, empathy, and I'll teach you the EAR technique that I learned from Dr. David Burns in the team therapy course. I call it the connecting dance sometimes because it goes back and forth. And then how to establish credibility and authority in the health and wellness market. And we'll talk about things like how to talk about your own skills soulfully without coming over as a terrible nerd, which I have a good time doing. And then how many credentials do you really need to have credibility and authority? And it's less than you think. And then we'll have practical examples of conversation starters and some role play and everyday conversations. That will be lots of fun because I love exercises. I love role players. Nothing better than role play to really make a fool out of yourself. All right. Any questions? Any comments?
I found this very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you for this comment, Linda. I appreciate that.